Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Nika and I make book related videos, and as you can see from the title and well, the absolutely new setting, we are going to talk about all of my 2021 most anticipated reads in new releases section. I also have another video coming up in this series, which is basically a backlist books version. So if that's something you're interested and intrigued about, do keep an eye out for that. I will have it up very soon. Now I reckon there will be sort of a sequel video for this particular video, because in this video I have included only the new releases which will be coming out in the duration of January to June, because so far many of the books which will be coming out in the second half of the year haven't been declared yet. So I'll do another of these videos later on in like June or July, and I'll tell you about the more amazing new releases coming up in the second half of the year. So without further ado, I'm gonna dive right in. I will include the the cover of the book here, and I'll also include the releasing date as far as I know. They may have changed because publishers do it sometime or the other, but I'm very excited to read all of these. 3 of these books are actually already out, but it might not be out in your country, in your place, stuff like that. At least I haven't been able to acquire them yet, which is very unfortunate, but I hope to get them very soon. So without further ado, we're gonna dive right in, and I hope these are some of the books which will intrigue you. I've got a wide variety of genres, so yeah, without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so the first book that I'm really excited to read is Nick by Michael Farris Smith. Now if you can see from the cover itself, you'll understand that this has some sort of relation to The Great Gatsby, and yes, you're right, because in Great Gatsby we have Nick Carraway, who is sort of like the narrator character of the book, but Michael Farris Smith has taken up Nick from that book and he has given Nick his very own story. So we follow Nick along the trenches and deep within the tunnels of World War I, and then we also see him moving to post-war America, and I really absolutely love the jazz age and the stories that are written around it. The visuals and the imagery that arise from that era are really stunning, so I'm really excited to read it. The Great Gatsby is also one of my favorite books, so admittedly I have very high expectations from this one. Do tell me, what do you think? The next book that I'm really very excited to read is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. And this is basically following the story of 2 men, Samuel and Isaiah, and they are both slaves in a deep south plantation, and I'm assuming that this was before the American War. So yeah, it's going to be a harrowing read because we are going to read about slaves, and obviously with that comes the inevitable human torture that you get to read, because if you've read Toni Morrison's Beloved, you'll understand how harrowing it is to read about the great injustice, the great crimes that were committed on the black people. And moreover, this has another layer of intricacy to it, because we follow 2 men, so it's a homosexual story, and people in those times were very homophobic. So this is definitely going to be a very intense and harrowing read, but I'm hoping to read it, and I'm checking out the premise here, and it says that there is a certain lyricism reminiscent of Toni Morrison. So yeah, really hoping and looking forward to reading this book. I'm actually planning on getting an audiobook from libro.fm, so I'll tell you all about it after I've read this book. It's bound to be a very emotional and intense journey. So yeah, the next book that I'm really excited to pick up is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, and this book really gives me Jane Eyre and Rebecca vibes. I'll tell you why. We follow this character Jane, and she is a dog walker in Thornfield Estates, which is a gated community full of McMansions, shiny SUVs, and bored housewives. Now basically she's a dog walker, and then she meets Mr. Rochester from very much Jane Eyre. So she meets this Mr. Rochester, who's recently widowed, and his wife B BEAB, drowned in a boating accident with her best friend. The body is lost to the deep, which is very much, gives me Rebecca vibes. So basically, Jane and Mr. Rochester fall in love, but then this dead wife won't stay dead. The legend of B is something that seems to overpower Jane, all of that. So this is a book giving a mystery take on two classics. So this sort of mystery retelling of two classics. Sign me up for it. I'm really very excited to read it. I am hoping to pick it up very, very soon. Again, I think I might check out the audiobook for this one, especially because it when it comes to mysteries and thrillers, audiobooks give you the actual vibe. So yeah, so these are the 3 books I'm very excited to read, and they have been released in January. Moving on to February, let's see the first book. It is The Survivors by Jane Harper. Now basically, I'll just read out the premise for this book. We follow Kieran Elliott. Kieran Elliott's life changed forever on the day a reckless mistake led to devastating consequences. The guilt that still haunts him resurfaces during a visit with his young family to the small coastal community he once called home. His parents are struggling in a town where fortunes are forged by the sea. Between them all is his absent brother Finn. When a body is discovered on the beach, long-held secrets threaten to emerge, a sunken wreck, a missing girl, and questions that never got washed away, that have never washed away. So I'm assuming that something happened when Kieran went out sailing one day. I'm assuming his brother died or something. I don't know. That's just me guessing. So let's see what's the actual story. I'm really excited to read this book. It sounds interesting, and I've seen a couple of non-spoilery reviews, and people are really excited for this one. They've loved this one, whoever have read it. So yeah, another book I'm really excited to read. Moving on, we have The Other You. This is a collection of stories by Joyce Carol Oates, and once again I'm just going to read the synopsis because that's what I read that intrigued me to add it to my list. A powerful reckoning over the people we might have been if we had chosen a different path, from a master of the short story. In this stirring, reflective collection of short stories, Oates ponders alternative destinies, the other lives we might have led if we had made different choices. An accomplished writer returns to her childhood home of Uville, or the homecoming stirs troubled thoughts about the person she might have been if she had never left. A man in prison contemplates the gravity of his irreversible act. A student's affair with a professor results in a pregnancy that alters the course of her life forever. Even the experience of reading is investigated as one that can create a profound transformation. You could enter another time, the time of the book. So yeah, what if situations always haunt us in life? Whatever your situation is, whatever jobs you have, whatever. So I'm really excited to read it, and the fact that these are a collection of stories will make it much more easier to read, I think. So yeah. Moving on, we have Never Have I Ever by Isabel Yap. I am really, really very excited to read it because this is a collection of short stories, and these deal with immigrant tales, spells, stories, urban legends, and there is a sort of magical realism element to all of these. It's also a debut collection, so I am really very excited to be reading it. A spell for foolish hearts, to the terrifying tension of the urban legend. Have you heard the one about Ana Maria Marquez? It's got a 4.75 rating on Goodreads, so yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Of course I'll check it out, that's why it's on my list, but that's another book I'm really very excited to read. Moving on, we are going to talk about one of the most anticipated books for me, because it's by my favorite author Sarah J. Maas, and it is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. And this one actually follows the other sister of Farah, and we follow Nesta and Cassin's story. So again, if you have not read the original 3 Ekotar series, then I should definitely recommend you to pick it up. I actually love it. And if you directly read this one, you might get spoilers about the original trilogy, but if you're okay with that, go ahead. Once again, I'm really, really very, very excited to read it because I absolutely love SJM's works, so it's a given that I'm going to pick this one up as well. So yeah, that's that. We have got 4 exciting and most anticipated new releases for February. If you have some more most anticipated books in your list that I have not included in mine, please don't forget to suggest down in the comments below, because I will definitely check them out, because book recommendation is something that I'm definitely going to check out, obviously. So yeah, that's that for February. Let's move on to March. Now, moving on to March, we have 5 books. The first one I want to talk about is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, I'm sure you'll find this book in many people's lists, and justly so, because Kazuo Ishiguro is a Nobel laureate, and this is apparently his first book after winning the prize, Nobel Prize in Literature. This basically follows the life, the story point of view of Clara, who is actually an artificial friend, so I'm assuming a robot, and she has outstanding observational qualities, and basically the book offers a look at our changing world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator, and one that explores the fundamental question: what does it mean to love? So she's a robot, I'm assuming, who has outstanding observational qualities, and who can hope, because she remains hopeful that a customer will soon choose her. So this is going to be definitely an interesting read, to definitely talk about emotions, and especially we don't think much about emotions when it comes to humans, because it's expected, but when emotions are juxtaposed with the existence of a robot with whom we don't generally associate emotions, they take on an infinitely more importance or more interest for us. So yeah, definitely I'm intrigued to pick this up. Moving on, we have The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. Now, this is sort of a mystery book, because in this book, 3 female code breakers who originally worked at Bletchley Park, they must find the spy who is basically trying to sell the secrets of their country, of their work, because as you might know, Bletchley Park was this place where very smart code breakers worked during the Second World War to break the German codes and everything. I'm sure you've seen the series. I think Bletchley Park is also the place where Turing worked, all of that, Enigma Code, all of that. So yeah, really very excited to read it. Moving on, we have got another book, which is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten, and it has been described as a brilliant crossover of the Blair Witch Project and Midsommar. So let's see. We follow documentary filmmaker Alice Linstead, who is really obsessed with finding out what happened to the vanishing residents of the old mining town dubbed the Lost Village. Basically, in 1959, her grandmother's entire family disappeared in this mysterious tragedy, and ever since, the unanswered questions surrounding the only 2 people who were left, a woman stoned to death in the town center and an abandoned newborn, have plagued her. She's gathered a small crew of friends in the remote village to make a film about what really happened, but there will be no turning back. There's another line that says, "They are not alone. Are you hooked yet? You should be." I definitely was after reading this whole synopsis. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to read this at night, because who knows, right? Okay, moving on, we have got She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd. Beautiful cover, and I have been told that this is sort of like a dark academia, but in a very modern setting, of course. An electric romance set against a rebel art scene sparks lethal danger for 2 girls in this expertly plotted YA thriller. So yeah, very excited to read it, and this book has apparently been inspired by The Picture of Dorian Gray, which remains to this day one of my favorite books ever, and one of the best books when it comes to the dark academia genre. So this sexy psychological thriller explores the intersections of love, art, danger, and power. Really very excited to read it. I do have to say that the cover is exciting as well. There's a fire, there's 2 murders, there are 3 drowning bodies, there's 1 suspect, and there's also a stalker. This is definitely a summer which will remain unforgettable in the memory of all of all the characters. So, and definitely myself as well, I'm hoping. I've got really high expectations, high hopes for this one. So, looking forward to reading it. The last book that comes out in March that I'm excited for is The Rule of Wolves, which is a sequel to King of Scars. It's by Leigh Bardugo, and we follow Nikolai, who is another one of my favorite characters, who is also the favorite character of my brother, who's just started reading Leigh Bardugo's works. So we first see him in Six of Crows, and it's been an amazing journey since then. I'm not going to say much because since this is the last book, final book in the duology, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but basically it follows a world where people have different powers, heartrenders, healers. There are also people who work with the elements, all of that. Really very interesting, wonderful fantasy if you want to read. Really very excited for this one. Moving on to April, we have got some very exciting books. The first being Lies We Bury by Elle Marr. Now this really gave me Room vibes. I'll share the synopsis. I was born in captivity. 2 decades ago, Marissa escaped a basement prison, the only home she had ever known. At 27, Marissa's moved beyond the trauma and is working under a new name as a freelance photographer. But when she accepts a new job, covering a string of macabre murders in Portland, it's impossible for Marissa not to remember, because everything is very, very familiar. The same underground layers, sad trinkets and toys left behind, identical to those Marissa had as a child. And then there is a note meant just for her that freezes her blood. See you soon, missing. To determine the killer's next move, Marissa must now retrieve her long-forgotten memories and return to a past she's hidden away. But she won't be facing her fears alone. Someone is waiting for her in the dark. This is really scary. Actually, it really scared me the first time I read it because it really gave me Room vibes, and I'm claustrophobic, and being in captivity is something, it's one of my worst fears, really. So yeah, I'm excited to read this book, and at the same time I'm sort of dreading it. Moving on, we have got a Sally Thorne book. Now, I really love Sally Thorne ever since I read The Hating Game, which is going to be made into a movie. So if you haven't read that book, please do. So this next book of hers is called Second First Impressions, and basically we follow the two people, Ruthie Medona. She is caring for the residents at this retirement villa for old people, and then basically she's started to how do I say this, forget about herself, stop taking care of herself, all of that. She's forgotten that she's young, beautiful, and that there's a world outside of work, until she meets the son of the property developer who just acquired the retirement center. Now he's got nowhere to stay, so he's going to stay in this villa. So when we follow Teddy Prescott. So when Teddy needs a place to crash, his father seizes the chance to get him to grow up. He'll let Teddy stay in one of the on-site cottages in the retirement home, but only if he learns to earn his keep. So basically these two will obviously start working and fall in love, obviously. So yeah, I am hoping to pick it up very, very soon. Again, I really loved The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, so I'm having very high hopes for this one. The next book is one that is really, really very scary and very interesting as well, and it's called The Mary Shelley Club by Goldy Moldavsky. It's again another dark academia which is set in this really prestigious school. We follow this girl, Rachel Chavez, I think, Rachel, and basically she is a scholarship kid, and it makes it hard for her to fit in. But then she gets caught up in a prank gone wrong, and this prank basically brings her to the attention of the secret group, which is the Mary Shelley Club. And all of the people in this all of the students in this group, they have just one objective, and I'll say this word by word, to and I quote, come up with the scariest prank to orchestrate real fear. But as the pranks escalate, the competition turns cutthroat and takes on a life of its own. But what happens is that I'm assuming that the members of the club start getting hurt or start getting targeted, and now Rachel must track down who is the real monster amongst them, and in that she has to face her own fears, her own trauma as well. So again, really very excited to read this because I just love the dark academia setting, cutthroat competition. So yeah, this is the last of the books which is coming out in April. We've got 3 books that I'm interested about in April, and so we will move on to May. Moving on, let's talk about the 2 books that I'm excited for that comes out on May the 4th. The first one is A Luck of the Titanic by Cece Leigh. It basically follows 2 acrobats, 2 twins. What are the names? Let's see. We've got Valora and her brother Jamie. So basically they are working as acrobats aboard the Titanic, but then one day, of course, the unthinkable happened. The unsinkable ship is dealt a fatal blow, and now since these 2 characters are, well, not as privileged as the first class, we all know what happened in the actual movie. We follow them as they suddenly find themselves in a race to survive. Now, the whole issue with, the historical element as well as the bringing of the race issue is richly imagined, I have to say, and the idea basically was inspired from the recently uncovered account of 6 Titanic survivors of Chinese descent. So I think this might be a very harrowing read because, in those days, obviously, people were openly racist. Even people now are even openly racist. So I'm trying to imagine how much more they were in those times, especially when it comes to class differences as well. So yeah, that's another book I have got racked up, included in my list. And then lastly, the other book for May that I'm excited is The Ones We Are Meant to Find by Joanne Hay. This has been described as one of the most twisty, surprising and engaging page-turner YAs that we will read apparently this year. Once again, the cover of this book is one that has really got me intrigued, and the synopsis is just as interesting. It goes as: C awoke on an abandoned island 3 years ago with no idea of how she was marooned. She only has a rickety house, an old android, and a single memory that she has a sister and C needs to find her. STEM prodigy Casey once escaped from the science and home she once trusted. The Echo City, Earth's last unpopulated place, is meant to be a sanctuary for those committed to planetary protection, but it's populated by people willing to do anything for refuge, even if lie. Now she'll have to decide if she's ready to use science to help humanity, even though it failed the people who mattered most. So, sisterhood, survival, again, issues of the environment brought in. Very, very important, I think. So yeah, very, very excited actually, and it has been described as We Were Liars but more sci-fi. So it's also got a satisfying resolution as compared to the book Lost. So I'm hoping that it has a happily ever after, even if not a romance. I'm hoping it's a happily ever after safe end for the 2 sisters. So yeah, I'm excited to read it. Now we have reached pretty much the end of the video because the last 4 books that I'm going to talk to you all about will all be coming out in June. Alright, so the first one is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and the reason I want to read this book is because I finally want to read Taylor Jenkins Reid. Basically, I've heard very high reviews and very high ravings about The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, both of those 2 books. So I'm really excited. And apart from that, Malibu Rising is it has a setting that I am really, really excited because it's basically 4 famous siblings who are throwing an epic party to celebrate the end of the summer, but over the course of 24 hours their lives will change forever. Now this sort of settings I really love. It's also there in The Great Garden, which again I loved. Again, one of it's a kind of trope that I really, really like, and it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've been told that Taylor Jenkins Reid never disappoints, so I have included this in my TBR as well. Really, really excited to read this book. So I think that it's only fair that we started this video by talking about a book that is inspired by The Great Gatsby, which is my favorite book, and I think it's also fair that we end this video by talking about a book which again has been inspired from that same favorite of mine, The Great Gatsby. And the book that I'm talking about is The Chosen and the Beautiful. In this book, we follow Jordan Baker, who is a friend of Daisy in The Great Gatsby. And basically this time the author has given a certain different twist. We follow Jordan Baker, who is a golf enthusiast, which is a wonderful golf player, and she also is an immigrant this time, and because of that she's treated as an exotic attraction by her peers. Most importantly, she's also queer, so we can see that she's sort of multiply jeopardized in a way. So however, the author was still not done. The author brought in another element, and that is there is a magical element here. The author's debut novel reinvents this classic of the American canon as a coming-of-age story full of magic, mystery, and glittering access, 1920s guys, and introduces a major new literary voice. So I'm really very excited to read it. Beautiful cover once again. I have high expectations from this one, really. The next book that we are excited, that I'm excited about, and that you guys should be excited about as well, is The Search of the Snake, which follows the story of two twin sisters, and which actually has also been written by two twin sisters. So we see a lost princess, a dark puppet master, and a race against time before all is lost. Princess Rani longs for a chance to escape her gilded cage and prove herself. Ria is a street urchin, stealing just enough to keep herself alive. I'm also named Ria, by the way. When these two lives collide, everything turns on its head because Ria and Rani, often and royal, are unmistakably identical. So I'm guessing that they switch places. A deal is struck to switch. Oh my god. A deal is struck to switch places, and when the danger arrives, that they have no other choice than to combine forces to face the issue head on. So again, another fantastical book which has elements of magic, sisterhood again, and culture as well. Diverse literature, diverse fantasy. If that's something you want to read, something that's Indian inspired, you should definitely pick it up. I definitely am picking it up for the synopsis as well as these reasons that I just mentioned. Lastly, we are going to end this whole list by including a thriller, and that is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. We follow these sort of characters in 1991. We have movie-obsessed college student Charlie Jordan, and Charlie has just met Josh Baxter, with whom she's sharing a ride basically. But then apparently Josh, who is the man behind the wheel, might sort of be a serial killer, and now Charlie has to survive the night. Is Josh truly dangerous, or is Charlie's suspicion merely a figment of a movie-fueled imagination? So imagine being trapped in a car. You have no idea if this driver is the killer, and you can't show it either, because what if he is? Because then he'll kill you, right? So anyway, really excited to read this one, and I have very high hopes for it. So that's it, guys. We have reached the end of this video. I understand that it might be a bit long, but that is to say, I have very high hopes from all of these books, and I just counted and I realized that I'm talking about 21 bucks, and that's, well, fair really when you consider that this list is for 2021. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video and got to know about a few other books that are coming out this year. If you are planning on reading any of these, don't forget to tell me via DM on Instagram, or you can just leave a comment down below so that I'll know, and then perhaps we can buddy read, do a read along, whatever we are both comfortable with at the moment. But that's that for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will also do a sequel to this video later on in the year, and there's another anticipated reads list video coming up, which is for backlist books, coming up very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. I hope to see you all very soon. Take care. Peace out. Bye.